Hello, and welcome to another exciting episode of Cap and No Cap. I am your host, Kevin C. Meggett, and with us today we have our special guest host who's helping me because Asha and Janae is out, so he'll be with me for a while, hopefully, if I could continue to talk him into it. We have former City Councilman, grassroots organizer, Mr. Andy King. How you doing, Mr. King?
Doing well yourself, dear, my brother.
Okay, I'm good.
Glad to be here.
Today's show, we have a great show in line. Today is going to be about hip hop and politics. And June in 1979, now you could correct me if I'm wrong, 1979, President Jimmy Carter said June is Black Music Month.
Yes.
And then it became African American Appreciation Month.
African American Music Appreciation Month.
African American Music Appreciation Month through President Obama.
Correct.
And to commemorate it, you have adopted a day
Yes.
for a founding pioneer of hip hop named Sha Rock.
Yes, that's
Right?
Yes.
A lot of you women don't know that is the first female MC that has the stars and stripes. So all of these female MCs that are doing what they're doing today, get your pen and pad out and do your homework and thank this woman because she made it possible for you to do what you're doing. So you came up with a day last year.
2 years ago.
2 years ago, I'm sorry.
2019.
2019 to commemorate her,
Yes.
which she deserves. You know, she absolutely deserves it. And how did that happen?
Well, she was doing a casting call because they were doing a movie for her back in 2019 before the pandemic hit. So we were honoring and recognizing her for her accomplishments and who she is. And then as we were rapping and talking, and I came up with these awards and I said, you know what? She's worthy, because she is history, and we have to do a great job in reminding today and tomorrow what yesterday was like.
Right.
So, I love my Queen Latifahs. I love my MC Lights. People enjoying the Cardi B and all the rappers of today.
Right.
But if it wasn't for MC Sha Rock, who took the reins and got out there, as a 16-year-old, out there where it was a man's world back then.
Right.
That requires some people to pay attention to.
Right.
And it's not even about all the other conversations that happens after that, but she was out there early, traveling the circuit, putting her time in. Her mom was trying to figure out what she was doing, but supported her when she got a record deal, not knowing what she was getting herself into, but she was out there doing it because she enjoyed the music, she enjoyed the atmosphere, and she enjoyed putting together. So being a part of the Funky 4+1, and she was that one,
Right.
that popped it off for them all. So I say thank you to her on that day. So when she was doing the casting call right then and there, we said, we're going to announce June 1st as Sha Rock Day here in the Boogie Down Bronx. And from there on, the COVID hit last year.
Right.
So we honored her
Virtually. I was on
virtually,
there.
virtually. Over 100 people from the industry, from the Curtis Blows to the Big Daddy Kanes,
Busy B.
Everybody
They were all
was on
on
Sparky D. Everybody was on this Zoom as we on. And actually, I drove to Texas because that's where she lives.
Right.
I drove all the way to Texas to do.
Yeah, she's like
in
in northern Texas. Somewhere, right?
I drove all the way to honor her and celebrate her on her day, because she's worthy of it. So this year we're excited. Tomorrow,
Right.
which will be the 5th of June, we're going to do in honor of celebrating African American Music Appreciation Month. We're celebrating Sha Rock Cultural Day in Gun Hill Playground from 1:30 to 5:30. A whole host of DJs from Chuck Chill Out and DJ Breakout, Hands and DJ Barron.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and we're going to be honoring a few others. Brother El Khalid, who happens to run 100 mobile museums, as well as our NYPD Deputy Chief Ruel Stevenson, who's been a great partner when it comes to community, as well as making sure that the good man of the Manhattans, the voice of the Manhattan.
Oh, wow, Austin, yes, that's right.
Will be there. We'll be honoring, and everybody knows.
See,
record producer Amadeus will be in the house.
Oh, wow.
Amadeus will be there, who we know from J-Lo,
Yes.
and all the whole crew of people he's produced. we're honoring him. But one of the greatest ones we're going to be recognizing is a young man who had the vision. And as we bring him on, Rocky Bucano, who is the founder and the president and the CEO of the Universal Hip Hop Museum.
That's right. Okay.
Yeah.
Shout out to Rocky.
That's right.
That's our special guest today.
Yeah.
So, but shout out to you, because you never, even though you're not in city council anymore, you never abandoned your district. You know what I mean? Like, some people leave office and they're like, oh, well, let me go somewhere. Like, for instance, I don't anticipate the people that leave office, who may have been in office for a long time, to even stay in the district that they'll probably move somewhere and retire and go somewhere. You know what I mean? But you're still very active, and I applaud you for that, because I think that's what inspired you to run, if that's the case. But, without further ado, if we could bring Rocky on, I'd love to talk to him about this museum. I happen to see all of the people that were on the at the groundbreaking.
Yes, that was
and,
really nice.
and I feel bad, because I learned about it at the last minute. So Little Rodney C from the Funky Four is a really good friend of mine, and he said, hey man, you wanna roll with me? But I had already went to work, and I was like, oh no, well, And then when I seen the pictures, I seen Nas and Dave East and Chuck Chilla, Chuck Chilla, LL Cool J. And I was like, wow, I just, I kind of, I had my little groupie moment. I'm not a groupie, but I had my little groupie moment. Like, I should have been there, but without further ado, where is Rocky? Can we bring him on? I want to talk about this Universal Hip Hop Museum and his vision and what inspired him to actually want to do something like this, which is long overdue in the Bronx, by the way, and chop up some good game with him. I don't know if we're having technical difficulty, but if we are, I'm sure they'll bring him on. And but me and you could, talk a little bit about politics. I think I see him. There he is. Hey, how you doing, Rocky?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for coming on Cap and No Cap. I appreciate you.
No, thank you for having me.
So give me a little history. What inspired you to want to do a Universal Hip Hop Museum?
It really just was, something that happened out of sheer opportunity. I wasn't really seeking to start a hip hop museum.
Okay.
I was running the New York Gauchos basketball program, and some real estate developers wanted to help the Gauchos expand our program from our South Bronx gym on Girard Avenue in Mott Haven to the Kingsbridge Armory. And long story short, those developers that wanted to bring the Gauchos into this Kingsbridge Armory did not qualify to proceed with their proposal. But the elected officials, specifically Fernando Cabrera, whose district oversees the Kingsbridge Armory area, was so excited about the Gauchos coming to the West Bronx that he asked me to see if I wanted to still participate with another developer.
Okay.
So he teamed me up with a gentleman by the name of Young Woo, who's a real estate developer, and he basically became a very close friend of mine. And about three months into the relationship with Young Woo, trying to build something special at the Kingsbridge Armory, he basically asked me if I knew of a music program that we could add to his proposal. And I told him, I said, why not add a hip hop museum to your proposal? And he said, wow, a hip hop museum is fantastic, but what do you know about hip hop? And then I had to shock and amaze him and give him my music background. And he was like, oh my goodness, I had no idea that you knew so much about music, because he thought I was just a basketball guy. And from that moment that we, teamed up with Young Woo to try to put the Universal Hip Hop Museum at the Kingsbridge Armory, is really where the project began. We didn't have a name for it when we were trying to work with Young Wu. We were just calling it a hip hop museum, and he ended up losing his bid to develop the Kingsbridge Armory because Mayor Bloomberg at that time thought
I remember that.
that the Armory would be better served to have a ice skating palace.
Right.
So he lost. We had to move on. We had some members on my team that was disheartened by the loss, but I stood with it because what I saw was that the community was really excited about the promise of having a hip hop museum here in the Bronx. So over the past 10 years, I've been working on it. I teamed up with L&M Development Partners about a little over 3 years ago. We submitted a proposal to the New York City Economic Development Corporation to develop the lot that the city owns called the Lower Grand Concourse, which is right on adjacent to the 145th Street Bridge, right underneath the Major Deegan Expressway. So now that whole lot is called the Bronx Point, and we are building a 52,000 square foot state-of-the-art museum.
Oh, wow.
And L&M is developing 100% affordable housing that will sit on top of the museum. So it's a mixed-use project that brings affordable housing to the community, builds out the waterfront. There's going to be a brand new esplanade for people to come hang out on the waterfront and enjoy the view of the Harlem River and enjoy the west side of the South Bronx, and obviously come visit the museum when we open in 2024.
Okay, so 2024, is that symbolic? Is that a symbolic year while you're opening?
No, so originally our goal was to open in 2023.
Okay.
Which represents the 50th anniversary
Of hip hop.
of hip hop. Hip hop started August 11, 1973 at 1527th Avenue. That was the after school party, or the back to school party, I should say, that Sidney Campbell and Clive Campbell, better known as Kool Herc, had back then. And that became the benchmark for where people, thought that hip hop started, because he was spinning break beats and he had b-boy dances and b-girls and
Right.
and the combination of that is what emanated around hip hop culture. But the culture was coined by Africa Bambaataa in 1974 because what he did as a former gang member of the Black Spades, he brought all the different elements together: the graffiti, the b-boys, the MCs, and the DJs, and then he added one extra element, which was called knowledge, the 5 elements, and he called this a culture of hip hop. So he's the one that actually coined the culture hip hop, because hip hop is not just music; it's a living, breathing culture.
Okay. That's amazing. Is there any comparison or similarity between the Universal Zulu Nation and Universal Hip Hop Museum?
No.
It's all coincidental.
It's all coincidental.
Okay.
So when I was thinking of a name, there had been other museums that had attempted to do a hip hop museum.
Okay.
And you can't just call it hip hop museum because the words hip hop can't be trademarked. So there was the National Museum of Hip Hop, which failed. Then there was the Hip Hop Hall of Fame, which I have no idea what happened to that. So I basically wanted to put a word in front of hip hop that represented the entire world, because our mission is not just to curate the story of local hip hop here in the Bronx and New York City, but to curate the
Globally.
global evolution of hip hop. So that's why we call it Universal Hip Hop Museum.
And that's amazing, because there is a lot of global hip hop is a multi-billion, I want to say it's near maybe even $1 trillion business globally. And I remember, I was young, but I remember when they said it was It was a passing fad. It was hope on a rope. You know what I mean? And now everything is attributed now to this culture we call hip hop. One of my mentors is Grand Mixer DXT. Well, I can't say one of. He's probably the most influential person with me, and like he gave me a bath of knowledge about this culture. And shout out to Grand Mixer DXT. But globally, it is a global phenomenon, and it's good to know that you've unified. You're attempting to unify this global culture and concentrate it into something and bring it back to the essence of where it came from. So
that is absolutely 100% correct. It's important to have this museum established here in the Bronx where it all started, but it may have started here in the Bronx, but the world owns it now.
That's right.
So when people from all around the world come to the Bronx, they'll be coming because they know that this is where it started at.
Right.
And they'll be paying homage to the pioneers and the legends that started it, like MC Sha-Rock and Kool Herc and Flash and all the brothers and sisters that were there at the very beginning. But it's also a continuum. It's to pay, recognition for those people and individuals who keep the flame going, like Cardi B, like Brother Andy King said, and Jay-Z and Eminem and all the people who came after the pioneers.
Hold on to that thought, Rocky. I got to take a real quick commercial break, and I'm going to come right back to you, and I'm going to pick right back up where we left off. This is Cap or No Cap. Stay tuned.
Millennium TV, bridging communities worldwide. We broadcast diverse international content from Europe, Asia, Africa, and now right here in the USA. Watch us via Roku on your smart TV. Submit your own content to 1530entertainmentllc@gmail.com. Download the Millennium TV app from the App Store to stream our shows anywhere, anytime. Millennium TV. Millennium TV, bridging communities worldwide. We broadcast diverse international content from Europe, Asia, Africa, and now right here in the USA. Watch us via Roku on your smart TV. Submit your own content to 1530entertainmentllc@gmail.com. Download the Millennium TV app from the App Store to stream our shows anywhere, anytime. Millennium TV.
Vegas special host, Mr. Andy King, former city councilman at the 12th District. We have the founder and CEO of the Universal Hip Hop Museum. And we were engaged in a very deep conversation, but Mr. King has a question for you, Rocky. Go ahead, Mr. King.
So, Rocky, my question posed to you, I know as a man who's traveled the globe, just to get your thoughts on how has hip-hop from its origins transitioned to the hip-hop of today? What is your comparison of how hip-hop from yesterday and what hip-hop is today? And how do you compare hip-hop here in the States today as opposed to the counterparts of hip-hop across the globe?
So thank you for that question, Brother King. Hip-hop today is the same as it was when hip-hop first started. The difference is that the music is different, but it's still the music of the youth. So when hip-hop started back in the 70s, we were all teenagers, having fun in the parks, doing stuff that we loved, just to entertain. And it was a reflection of what was happening in our communities. So, we all used to go out and plug our, sound systems into the street lamps and try to steal power and set up our music so that people from all around the neighborhood can come enjoy the music. And today, the kids are still making music that's reflective of the community. Some of it you and I may not be able to relate to, but trust me when I tell you, it's still the music of the streets. It still represents the youth. And that is synonymous to the way it was back in the 70s when we first started. On a global level, the people in, Asia, Europe, Africa, Mexico, Russia, wherever you go, they are more understanding of the origins of hip hop, more so than today's youth, because we don't do enough to promote the history, to connect what is happening with today's music to the past. But overseas, they love the old stuff. They love the authentic style of hip hop. They love the b-boy and the graffiti, which you don't see much of here in America. So overseas, I would say it's a little bit more traditional style of hip hop. And here in America, it's more commercial, based on, what the record companies want to manufacture and sell, and based on what the kids are thinking is, great hip hop. So that's the comparison.
Okay. So let me just follow you. I heard you mention something about commercial. When you talk about commercial, does that mean that the record companies are actually moving the message? Because it's been on a number of occasions, conversations, like you said, there might be music that we may not understand, but this generation embraces and understands. But do you think some of the messaging that record companies are putting out are beneficial to the hip hop world and our young people, compared to some of the music that can be more inspiring, that never seems to make the charts because of commercialism?
Yeah, so, listen, it has become so commercialized, and the record companies do control the messaging, which is, it is what it is. It's a business. But you do have artists like J. Cole and Kendrick Lamar and Rhapsody. Those are young artists that still carry a very informative type of storytelling that resonates well with today's youth. And then there are those artists that just think it's all about money, bling, and drugs and whatever. You're always going to have a dichotomy of different sounds and styles. And sometimes it's good and sometimes it's bad. But that goes for all types of music, not just hip hop.
Right.
Rock and roll, R&B, soul, some of the lyrics and some of the great soul records that we grew up on, Andy. They weren't talking about, playing dilly-dally in the park.
Right. So true. So true.
Right. So it all goes hand in hand, brother.
Right. So my last question before I turn it over, I just wanted to ask you a question. We're talking about some of the history of hip hop here, and when we start talking about the Sha Rocks, we talk about the Melly Mells, we talk about the Kool Hercs. How does the industry today look to reward those who kicked it all off, knowing that it's pretty much a $1 billion industry today? How are the pioneers going to be looked at, or even if there's a thought of compensation for those who helped kick off this great genre of music?
Yep. So another great question. The industry really, it's just like the NBA, right? When Tiny Archibald was playing in the NBA, his salary was probably not more than $75,000 a year.
Right.
And now you have guys like LeBron James and Zion Williamson who make $700,000 a game, right? So they have moved on, and so has the music industry. Not to say that they don't respect the contributions of Grandmaster Melly Mel and Kool Herc and those guys, but it has become more of a entrepreneurial business today. So those cats that are making records today have turned their game into a real business. It's a streaming business where they control the pot more so than the record labels do. With respect to the legends, that's what the museum is doing. We're building a museum that is a permanent home to pay tribute, to celebrate their contributions to the culture, and to make sure that people understand that these were the people that really opened the door for all these other people to follow. And that's what a museum does. It connects the past to the present and vice versa. In terms of compensation, you know, the museum, what we hope to do is to help create pathways for some of these guys, men and women, brothers and sisters, to reinvent themselves in speaking engagements with lectures and book publishing and doing other things that they can use to monetize their legend and use that as a means to generate money. But, you know, unfortunately, you know, no one really owes them any money from what they contributed. You know, I mean, you know, people would say, hey, you know, why doesn't Jay-Z or Diddy or any of these guys give back to, you know, Kool Herc or anyone of the guys who came before them? It's just because they earned their money. It's their money. And they should use their money however they see fit. What we do believe is that we should create some sort of fund. And I know that this has been a discussion about creating a fund for when artists fall on hard times. At least there is a means to support them during their hard times, whether it's health insurance or dental insurance or whatever it is. We need to figure out how to do some of those things to help those guys out.
Well, I really appreciate your answer, because I did hear some time ago that I believe it was Swiss Beats or LL, they were looking to put in like $1 million to some of these artists that started the game, who have been kicked to the curb and never thought as 16-year-old that this industry would be what it is today, let alone they didn't know they were starting an industry while they were coming up with a platform just for means of escape and fun for us all when we were teens. So I thank you for that, and hopefully that mission of Swiss and Ella comes to fruition, that they are able to help some of these artists, just like they do with boxers. Right. Now they're starting to have that conversation about boxers who are out of the game, who are dysfunctional right now because the game has left them dysfunctional and there's nothing there for them. So yeah. So I thank you again, and thank you for joining us today. And I look forward to seeing you and honoring you tomorrow at Shard Rock Cultural Day at the African American Music Appreciation Month celebration.
Thank you.
I just wanted to ask you one quick question, Rocky.
Sure.
So, like, we tend to try to reinvent the wheel. My co-host, her name is Janaea Butler. She has an organization that she's been pushing for over 10 years called Hip Hop Union, where it's actually hip hop has its own union, and she's addressing those things about health care and pension funds and so forth and so on. I think with the culture, what I believe the culture is so fragmented that we end up picking and choosing who do we want to work with. And, you know, we have to, if we're going to have a real honest conversation and have a real sincere union, we have to invite other people to the table to make progress. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, so I do agree with that, but here's the issue. People like to work with people who they know and who they feel they can trust. They're just not going to work with anybody. Right. You know, regardless of how noble their mission
work ethic
or their vision is.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So, you know, I applaud Swiss Beats and LL for initiating the discussion. And if those guys can get it started, they will be able to galvanize everyone else around it, because people respect them and trust them because of their accomplishments.
Right.
So we have to look to those people who have the means and resources to really dig in and get it started, and then everyone else can come around and join in.
Right. Now, do you also think radio picks and choose what is aired? Like, in other words, J. Cole is...
Of course. I mean, they did that before hip hop started.
Okay.
It's called payola.
Yeah, that's right.
But you know, the difference was someone like Kool DJ Red Alert, Chuck Chill Out, and so many other Marley Marl, so many other pioneer DJs. They were the radio programmers. You know how many careers that they broke, I think they were actually responsible for programming. Like they broke so many careers that you had to put a restriction on who you're going to break, who you're going to break through.
Well, I have my own opinion about that because I had a record company during the golden era called Strong City Records that I started with Jazzy J. So I know the radio business very intimately.
Mm-hmm.
And, it's all about dollars. It's all about who controls the program directors and the music directors. And in most cases, they're controlled by the major record labels because those are the people that have the most resources or organizations that have the most resources to continuously support, programming at, these black-owned and what I call mixed-owned radio stations now, because there's not many black-owned stations anymore.
Right.
But, listen, it all begins with your creative talent. And if you are an artist that has true creativity and true talent, you will be able to break through the barriers and get your record on radio. That's what happens with most records. Even when you don't have money, it all goes back to your song and your talent.
Right.
And if your song and talent is good, it will find its way on the radio.
Okay, so lastly, before we go to break, I guess I could ask the question, and when we come from break, you can answer it. What is the criteria for artists? Okay, so the museum represents hip hop, past, present. What is the criteria for the future MC to become a part of the Universal Hip Hop Museum? Because you have really dope artists that have a really powerful message, like the Miranda Wrights and the Nene Ali's and the Nairobi Salahs that are just so dope. The Immortal Techniques, you know what I mean? Like, how do they represent? How are they going to be? How are they going to be represented? And answer me as soon as we come back from break. Think about it. We're going to take a real quick break.
It is about.
As soon as we come back from break, you can answer it for me.
Okay, cool.
Okay. Whew. I hate them breaks, bro. Yeah.
Millennium TV, bridging communities worldwide. We broadcast diverse international content from Europe, Asia, Africa, and now right here in the USA. Watch us via Roku on your smart TV. Submit your own content to 1530entertainmentllc@gmail.com. Download the Millennium TV app from the App Store to stream our shows anywhere, anytime. Millennium TV. Millennium TV, bridging communities worldwide. We broadcast diverse international content from Europe, Asia, Africa, and now right here in the USA. Watch us via Roku on your smart TV. Submit your own content to 1530entertainmentllc@gmail.com. Download the Millennium TV app from the App Store to stream our shows anywhere, anytime. Millennium TV.
With Cap or No Cap, I am your host, Kevin C. Meggett. Special host, former City Councilman, 12th District, Mr. Andy King. And we left talking about the futuristic rappers becoming a part of the institution that you're building. Can you elaborate on that?
Yes, so our mission is to promote and inspire greater understanding of hip-hop music and culture. And we are the arbiters of the past, present, and the future. So as long as the people that are creating what we call relevant and culturally significant hip-hop, they will be part of this organization.
Okay.
They will be part of this museum. And what do I mean by relevant and significant? It has to have a positive and social impact on the evolution of the culture. And as long as it meets that criteria, those artists will be in this museum.
Outstanding. That's outstanding. So you're going to be actually at Shah Rock Day tomorrow as well, right?
I will.
Okay. I look forward to actually meeting you in person. You were talking earlier about pioneers reinventing themselves, and let me before I talk a little bit more about Shah Rock Day. I had Melly Mel for Memorial Day. I work for a veteran organization, and he actually performed. And I'm gonna tell you, he didn't miss a beat. He's still hot, man. Like they showed him so much love in Brooklyn. It was incredible, you know. And
listen, it's like the Temptations going on stage.
Yeah, exactly.
They don't miss a beat. And you still love their songs.
Right. And he still set the bar so high, you know, like. No one really wanted to. I had to put singers on behind him. Like no one wanted to rap anymore.
Right.
But let's talk about tomorrow. Tomorrow is Shah Rock Day. She is a phenomenal MC. She is actually getting the credit that she deserves. Thank you, Mr. King, for stepping up to the forefront with that. And you want to talk about tomorrow? What are you exactly doing tomorrow?
Well, what we're doing is, when I first started, we were at City Hall, honoring those in the music industry for African American Music Appreciation Month. And in the past, we've honored artists like Little Kim, Hezekiah Walker, Rakim, as well as Big Daddy Kane, to name a few. So tomorrow's ideal is bringing that same essence of elegance, because that's what all these folks deserve. Shah Rock being the luminary icon of all mother of the MCs,
right,
or all the sisterhoods. So we want to make sure that tomorrow is family friendly. We urge everyone to come on out.
So the whole family could come out.
Yeah, family come out. You know, hip hop music is the culture is us.
Right.
You know, it's something that was bred and born from us. No one else can claim. You know, no European can claim that they started hip hop. Right. You know, no one can do that. Only we can do that. So when it's time to pay homage and truth, we deserve an event that represents who we are. And that's what tomorrow is. We'll be at Gun Hill Playground. For those who don't know what Gun Hill Playground is, on Magenta Street and Holland Avenue, right behind Gun Hill houses.
So that's the 2 train to Gun Hill.
Right, take the 2 train to Gun Hill.
And follow the music.
There you go. There you go. We got DJ Brand gonna have socks washed out there, so you're gonna hear from 10 blocks away. So we're asking people. The award ceremony does start at 1:45, so we know that our guests will be there between 1 and 1:15 and 1:30. The honorees, music giveaways, a lot of community love, a little bit of soul food in the house with some soul love at the same time. So and we're looking forward to honor and hear some of the voices that will be out there. And I have to give a shout out to two little young soul, Miracle, who was an 11-year-old who will spill a little something, give her the mic to say a little hip hop. She's starting her career out. She's 11 going on 33. Okay. And then we have Layla Capers, who's a 12-year-old who plays Nyla in The Lion King.
Right.
So she'll be there as well to start us off with a little graceful thought. She is a beautiful voice and a strong voice. When you listen to this little girl sing, you'll be like, how old is this child? But she does it right.
So this is a real family, community oriented, and that's what hip hop, I believe, ended up becoming. It evolved out of, and you could correct me if I'm wrong, but I know I'm pretty right, Rocky. It evolved out of gang culture and people wanting to get out of it, and poverty. It was almost like, I love what Wise Intelligence said. He said hip hop was like manna that God gave us when we had nothing. It was like manna, and we made the most out of not having nothing, and now look at what we have now. You know what I mean? And the hip hop origins is, it's a beautiful culture. But I where I'm at now personally, I just don't like. I mean, there's so many offshoots of hip hop that I like Rocky said earlier, it's really music that was for the youth. And with that said, I really don't understand a lot of the drill, the trap music. I really don't understand a lot of it. I mean, I try not to frown on anything. I try to have a real balanced mindset to at least accept the information. But I think too much drill, too much gang culture references and stuff like that. I would love to see where more positive messages are actually pushed, where at least it's a balance.
Right.
At least you can balance it out, because it's not very balanced right now. And like you said, Europeans didn't create this culture. In fact, DXT, and I love quoting him on this, has said to me that hip hop culture is soul music reintroduced in a way that we wanted to hear. Would you agree with that, Rocky?
I would, 100%.
And so,
Hip hop is America's greatest cultural export, more so than anything else,
right,
because the people that created this culture used their own freedom of expression and creativity to break down barriers and transcend everything that was put in place to keep us back as a people. It allowed us to grow and create our own businesses, our own economy. And this is something that we own, we control, actually. It's brothers and sisters, black and brown, that are the beneficiaries of this culture. Obviously, there are many whites and Asians and other people that have benefited from it as well, because, as I said earlier, hip hop is now owned by the entire world. So, what I would say to just the styles of music, the drill and the trap and all that stuff that's happening now, everything goes in circles.
okay,
So what's here today won't be there 10 years from now, because something else will take its place.
Right.
And that's just the nature of what hip hop is, because we are continuously evolving as human beings. And right now we're just in a period where, a certain a lifestyle has become the dominant form of the culture. But as, people adapt to new things and see new things and experience new things, and communities, have new issues to talk about, so will the storytelling that has been driving a lot of, today's music. And we must remember that hip hop is more than just music. It is dance, it is fashion, it is design, it is how we, share each other's respect for, one another. All of that is related to hip hop.
right,
Because in hip hop, the biggest thing that we have is respect for each other. And that's why you hear the word respect in so many of the songs. Rakim and everyone, respect is the biggest element that we can have. And we got to get back to that level of respect. And once we do that, I think, today's youth that are running around with all the guns in the street, they understand that, this was something that, was a very dark period, similar to 1986, when we had a crack epidemic, and crack had infiltrated the hip hop lifestyle. Today it's gun violence, and we have to get back to just learning about respect. And once we do that, I think you'll see a lot of changes happening within the music itself.
I like that answer you
Yeah, I
just
do.
gave, because you're absolutely right. What is the flavor of the day? And that's the scary part when it comes to the hip hop culture, as some say, it has been hijacked by those who are pouring money into it, because as it was flourishing as an escape for the black community, they infiltrated and threw crack in it to try to knock it down and destroy it. Then when they got through the cracker, you start making it about guns. Still, that's still the death of a soul, and then you make money off of capturing that torment in music, and you promote that music and that song to the people who are most vulnerable to digesting it and engaging in those activities. So one day I look forward to be old enough to see the transformation again of hip hop music, that it can come to where it's back to respect, where all the killings of whatever the messaging is, and this has to be about guns, but whatever the killing of the soul through hip hop music transcends back to a place of respect where it was once created for survival. Then it was used by commercialism to destroy, and hopefully gets to a place of respect, as you say, Rocky. I thank you for your answer. Appreciate those comments.
Thank you. I always thought it was, I think hip hop culture could be a beautiful tool, or it could be a weapon of mass destruction. It depends on how it's being used. And so I say when the crack epidemic came, what music was being played at that particular moment? You had Public Enemy, you had KRS-One, you had Big Daddy Kane, and the programming, there wasn't too much programming, but the music was programming the people to be engaged, active, socially aware. We were actually taken to the streets. So I look at the crack as you can't like dispel the fact that did this crack epidemic happen? It happened at a certain amount of time to weaken a movement.
Right.
Similar to,
Exactly, yeah.
But you could go back even another generation and the same thing happened with funk and soul music with the heroin. Music just genuinely always, we took to the streets when it came to good music. It became a powerful tool. Like, oh my God, we gotta be active.
Right.
But now we need to create something that makes people inactive. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you gotta kind of look at that too. And so we have culture. The culture, hip hop is a culture. R&B and blues and funk is a culture. Gospel is a culture. It's not just a music, it's a way of life. And so
Correct.
we create these ways of life, and while it empowers us, it invokes fear in others.
Right.
And
Yes.
so we have to neutralize that fear. And I think that's where the crack epidemic comes from. That's where the gun epidemic comes from. It's like when you look at the culture historically, it was to come out of gangs. But now gang life has found its way into the culture. And I kind of wonder when people like Snoop and The Game and Cardi B and no disrespect to none of them. I love them all, you know what I mean? But when do they walk all of that stuff back? When do they say, where's the free PSA saying, you know what? You don't have to be a Blood, or you don't have to be a Crip. It's a dead end. You know what I mean? But we're marketing and promoting it, and I think that's kind of the problem that I have. How do you feel about that, Rocky?
Listen, I understand the gang lifestyle. When I grew up, and Andy, you know this very well, New York City had over 1,000 gangs back in the 70s. Every neighborhood you went to had a gang. But the difference back then was the gang was about protecting the hood, protecting the people who lived in the hood. Today it's just about territory and seeing who controls the money in that territory. So it's a different lifestyle. And yes, people should stand up and do things. And I do believe that Snoop and Dre and all the cats out on the West Coast, they do speak up.
Okay.
They've been part of different movements to try to prevent gun violence in the past, and it's just the people who are living a gang lifestyle have to make a decision on or is there a way to figure out how to work together and build each other up.
Right.
So I think it's just about giving people resources and giving them access to information that will empower people to do better and find a way to resolve differences. And and a lot of that just has to deal with understanding, knowledge of self. Once you know who you are and what you are capable of, you don't have to even think about, doing certain things because you know that you have the skill sets to accomplish anything that you want in life.
Good message.
That's a good message, yeah. And I agree. I mean, maybe I'm not unaware. Maybe I'm very unaware of what they've done, but I just find a lot of the lyrics, like trapping and stuff like that. The lyrics. I listen to lyrics. I'm big on lyrics. You know what I mean? And so I follow the lyrics, and then I'm like, oh, I get very disappointed very quick. You know what I mean? But again, hip hop music was never for the older generation. Because I remember when I was young, I would like have my little radio and Mr. Magic would be on, and I would have I'd make my little mixtape, and my moms would be like, "Didn't I tell you to wash the dishes?" And I'm like, "I'm taping," and that made her mad even more. So I had to stop it and cue it back and try to splice it. You know what I mean? But it was the only difference is culturally, her and I were disconnected. She had no interest in hip hop culture whatsoever. The problem I think now is that the parents and the children are listening to a variation of the same culture. So when my kids give me, I'm like, that ain't hip hop. Are you kidding me?
Right. We have all grown up within hip hop.
Right.
I'm in my 60s. I was there when hip hop first started.
Right.
So my sons are in their 30s and 20s, and they grew up only listening to hip hop.
Right.
So
right.
that's all they know.
Mm-hmm.
But of course, me being the person I am, I play all the old stuff, the Temptations, the OJs, the Supremes, so that they understand what other types of music really is.
Right. That's amazing,
And it's interesting you said that because your son Kyler was. We had a youth forum, and it was about music and art, and your son, and he made the valid point that parents, and as well as Tyra Wallace from Love and Hip Hop, we got to educate our children on the different genres of music. So at that point in time when they grow and they can say, you know what, I heard it, I listened to it, I may not want to follow that, listen to that, because I got other options. But if the parent and the child are listening to the same craziness each and every day,
right.
Where are the options for the kid to say, you know what, maybe that's not good, but if my mom or my dad is endorsing some of the roughness in the music that's being delivered, then it sets a bad precedence of where the child is going to lead themselves.
Right.
That 100% correct, brother.
Yeah.
That's right. Okay, that's a good analogy. Okay, so I think we're going to take a commercial soon, but before I do, I'm going to put something on your mind. Funding. How is this being funding? The museum being funded? Can people donate and give outside contributions? As you know, Millennium News TV, we're all over the world. We're in Africa, Asia, we're on Roku, we're on Amazon, Apple. So we got a lot of viewers and a lot of listeners, and I'm sure a lot of them are going to want to know, well, I would like to be a part of it. People love to be a part of something. And even if they could donate $10, $20, $50, $100, they can actually say, look, we actually help push this forward. And then the other question is, what is the federal government doing? Because would they want to fund? I mean, there's billions and, I'm sorry, let me take that back. There's trillions and trillions of dollars coming down the pipe. And I hope y'all are on that pipeline, because this sounds like this institution really needs to be built up. And the federal government needs to be involved, because we're all, I love to take tax money. And I'll tell you why. Taxpayer money is not the government's money, it's the people's money. So I will take a tax dollar in a heartbeat if you gave it to me, because I'm taking the people's money, and I'm part of the people, and you are part of the people, and Mr. King is part of the people, and hip hop as a whole is part of the people. So you could give me a brief answer. I know we're going to a commercial soon. How could they donate?
This museum is supported very much by people like former council member Andy King, Mayor de Blasio, city council members like Corey Johnson and Vanessa Gibson. Ruben Diaz just gave us a capital check for $4.2 million during the groundbreaking ceremony. So he made this part of his legacy. Governor Cuomo gave the museum $3.75 million 2 years ago. And now we're getting, foundations and corporations. Microsoft just gave the museum a gift of $5 million 2 weeks ago, and they are our official technology partner now. So, as the museum begins our construction, which started last month, now corporations are looking at us as a viable organization. Individuals are starting to donate. People can donate on our website, uhhm.org. Some people give $1, some people give $5, some people give $500 because they're just so passionate about this project. We are a 501c3 nonprofit organization. So, all donations, personal donations, and corporate contributions are tax deductible. And we're just excited that this amount of support is now coming in, because that wasn't always the case. 10 years ago, I couldn't get anybody to give me anything.
That's great. Listen, we're running out of time. I'm getting cued. Rocky, thank you so much. I look forward to meeting you tomorrow in person, shake your hand. Mr. King, thank you for everything that you do. And, we'll be back. This is next week. This is Cap and No Cap. We are now on M24 News, and we are on Roku, Apple, Roku, Apple, Amazon, and
so much more.
Android.